Welcome to our channel. Okay, per your request last week, you guys wanted to see what it looked like when you started a set from the inner and worked your way out and how they slightly look angled towards the inner. So you've seen that picture. Let's get started. I always typically start my sets from the outer towards the inner. And this is because if you start the opposite way, you start from the inner and work your way out, how you isolate, you're going to accidentally manipulate the lash extension that's already been adhered to angle slightly towards the inner. Now, it's not necessarily bad. If you saw that picture before, you can go ahead and go back. Or if you're halfway through this and you want to just skip to the end to see what it looks like. It doesn't look bad. I just prefer my lashes to be at a 90-degree angle, which means basically straight out, or angled towards the outer. I think it's more natural, but this is exactly what it looks like when you do it. And I would say probably don't do this, especially if you're newer, because you're going to have issues visually, like when you're taking your photos and wondering, like, why is it angling on the inside? So this is what happens. Okay, so as you can see, I've washed her. I actually skipped priming. Her lashes grab lashes beautifully. So I don't always prime every client. I do, however, always seal my clients. Okay, so this is a 100% visual set. As you can see, I'm not mapping. So when I say visual set, what I mean is I'm kind of just going by what I think would look best. I know her eye shape, so before we started, I looked at her eye, and how I map, I just look at what I want to fix. So if her eye tends to be a little bit, I hate using the word droopy because that's not the case, kind of like slightly dips in a little bit, then I'll know in that area, just go a little bit longer. So if I'm doing like a set that's a 13, I'll go up to a 14, possibly a 15, just to kind of see what it looks like. And you can kind of lift the eye open. That's the best way to tell if a length looks good, by actually setting it and have them fan for a second so it doesn't sting their eye, open their eye and see if that looks good. Just do one fan or one extension, you'll be able to tell. It's better than doing the whole set and wishing you had gone longer, or doing the whole set and going, oh boy, I should have gone shorter. We've all done that. And that extra few minutes of doing that is really going to make or break your set. I didn't do that with her because I know her eye. I've done her eye before and I already knew what I was doing. So basically, I have started her inners. Obviously, like I had said before, we're going to start from the inner and work our way towards the ear. But pay attention, okay? So when I'm isolating, I am automatically pushing those lashes towards the right, okay? So I'll wait till it happens again. Okay, so watch the next one on the left eye. Okay, so see when I'm isolating, I'm pushing those extensions towards the right? So what happens when you go back and forth and that lash that you set isn't quite dry yet? You're angling them to the inner. And of course, as most of us know, you want those to be at as perfect or as close to a 90-degree angle as you can. Okay, so let's touch on a few things because right now I'm just kind of repeating myself and what I'm doing. I'm placing my lashes. So if you can see, I haven't mapped this one. I'm doing it in my head. So I don't put that extra gel patch on top of the tape. The reason I do that is because I think it makes a really nice, clean canvas, okay? So as you can see, I just took off that tape. And why do I tape the inner lashes? I tape the inner lashes because when you put tape and you pull that lid out towards the ear, you're automatically exposing, it's kind of like an accordion, right? You're unaccordioning, that's not a word, but we just made it up, those inner lashes, and you're exposing. Sometimes I'll expose like 10. And if you aren't familiar with inners or you're kind of just like learning how to master them, perfect. So start practicing. And another thing you can do is to take your tweezers and very gently kind of lift the lid as well and just glide your tweezers. I like to use my 45 for this because it's really nice and smooth. Underneath that upper lid, and you might even pop out some more, which is so cool because with inners, It's kind of, I always refer to them and compare it to a men's haircut for anybody who's a Cosmo. There is no room for mistake. You see all the mistakes, especially if you're going from like a zero fade. You just see everything. So make sure you try and get those inners as perfect as you can and try and get them to 100% coverage. Always, always, always 100% coverage. Always, always perfect angles. And I probably referenced this in my last video, and I'll probably reference it in every video. You'll see these beautiful sets on Instagram or, you know, wherever you're looking for lashes. And then you see sometimes the artist just leaves out the inner lashes. That's how you know they haven't mastered everything yet. When you have a beautiful set and the inner lashes are just left out or just done poorly, or maybe they just threw a couple on because, you know, maybe they're not comfortable or they've never been taught the right way, it just makes the whole set look, how do I put this that's not so mean? Kind of like unfinished, right? It just doesn't look good. It's like having a beautiful haircut, bad set of bangs. The bangs ruin the whole thing. So really focus on those inners. And you guys, this can be what sets you apart from all the other lash artists in the area, just having those perfect inners, because that's something that everybody struggles with, especially your first, I don't know, maybe 1 to up to 3 years, because people, they're afraid to ask for help. People don't like to ask for help. It's almost embarrassing. So be vulnerable. If you see somebody that does a great job and you want them to train you, ask them. You know, asking people for free advice can sometimes be offensive. And I know a lot of artists, this is a very touchy subject, especially on Instagram. Sometimes you're going to get, you know, there's 2 types of artists regarding this. People who are happy to help you and people who just don't really have the time for it or don't want to make time for it. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with either of those. But, you know, instead of reaching out and, you know, hoping, expecting something for free, maybe you can reach out and say, do you train? Can I pay you to sit and to have you teach me inners? Your inners look really pretty. Just an idea. Be vulnerable, you guys. Don't be afraid to admit that you don't know how to do something, how a master has done it, because I have taken so many classes in my past, and oh my gosh, I am not even done yet. If I see somebody who's been doing lashes for half the time that I'm doing them, but they're doing something better, you better believe I'm going to want to take a class with them, because why would I want to cut my nose off to spite my face? Never be afraid to ask somebody if they'll train you if you think that they're doing a stand-up job and that they could teach you something to improve your business. Okay, so I want you guys to pay attention to my isolation, okay? Isolation is one of the most important parts of lashing. It's not so much going to give you great retention, because you can glue several lashes together, have poor retention, and they still last. Isolation is going to have a lot to do with the comfort of your client. You know, if you've ever had a client that has come back and they're like, oh, this lash is achy, and you're like, okay, well, let me check it out. And then you check it out and there's accidentally a couple lashes glued together. We have all been there. I have been there. My first couple years, my isolation was less than mediocre. Don't be embarrassed. It happens to all of us. But really, for the comfort of your client and kind of for your bragging rights, really make isolation one of your number 1 priorities. Isolation is something, it's so funny because I feel like some people talk about it like it's rocket science. You just isolate one lash, or you just keep trying to isolate until you have one lash. Boom, done. Okay, so another thing that I want you to look when I'm placing some classic lashes, I'm placing 2 instead of 2 together. So I'm placing 1 and then I'm going back and I'm adding 1 more. Sometimes here's the thing about lashing, you guys. You have to really be in the mood. And I like to change things up. And if I'm struggling with something, like if I'm trying to do 2 lashes, like a closed fan, and I do 2 together and their tips keep opening up, if I'm just like not in the mindset or not in the mode, this is a really cool, quick and easy tip that you can do. Just grab 1 or 2 lashes, place them, go to the next side and go back to that same lash. And depending on if you're trying to do like 4 lashes to a closed fan, go back and separate it up, you guys. You don't have to do all 4 or 6 at once. You can break it up. Yes, it does take longer, but if you haven't mastered it, or if you're just not in the mood, you guys, just do it separately. Go back and do it a couple times to get your closed fan. Even if you're doing it 3 times, one fantastic set is better than 10 mediocre sets. And taking the extra time and love and care to do something is going to make the difference. And you're going to be that lash artist with the photos whose pictures always look amazing, right? What did you do? All you did was you just took a little extra time to do it the right way because it wasn't working how you were doing it today and you're just not in the mood. That's something that I think is really important to understand. There are going to be days, you guys, where you just feel like you're just like not into it. You're not in the mood. Maybe it's like that time of the month. Maybe you're just tired. Maybe you're just not feeling creative today. Those are going to happen. Those days happen. And sometimes it's going to be a whole week. Push through it. Those days that you're not feeling creative, write a map. Write a map on an iPad so that you're not, making mistakes and putting lash sizes where they shouldn't be, and follow your map. On those weeks that you're feeling creative, go with it. Book extra time for your clients. For me personally, I think that there's more value in booking a client for a photo rather than booking a client for the money, because when you're booking a client for the money, oftentimes you're on a time crunch. And when I first started lashing, it was $1 a lash, you guys. And you're going to die when I tell you this, because the average fill was 30 minutes. 30 minutes. That's it. That was the average fill. And it was $100 to $150. It was 30 minutes. Lashes used to make a lot more money. Now, since we have learned, let me sidestep there. They were also 0.20, you guys. Ew. Oh, God. So now that we know a lot more and we care a lot more because we know, when you know better, you do better. Thank you, Maya Angelou. You're a brilliant woman. You just know what not to do. So there's a little secret. If you think that you shouldn't do something, guys, don't do it. And never, ever feel embarrassed or like you need to speed it up for your client. If your client's feeling antsy and wants to get out of the chair and they're like, how much longer? You're going to say, well, I would like to take X amount of minutes left. If you need to be out of here, I can do that. It's your time. You can do whatever you want with it. And that's also something I say to my clients who are late when they walk in and they're 15 minutes late. I would say like, oh God, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And, sometimes you're wondering like, do they think that I'm going to give them their full appointment? Because you have an appointment after. I would always just say, oh my God, don't worry. It's your time. Do whatever you want with it. You want to spend it in line at Starbucks? Your appointment. I'm here when you're ready. And they'd be like, oh, okay. So remember, it's your client's time. And if you're willing to give your client extra time and they don't value that, don't give it to them. Give it to the clients who value it, But if I could give that advice, lash for the photo, because then you're doing your best and you're giving your client the best that you can. Okay, so throughout this set, pay attention. If you need to rewind and rewatch, pay attention to my fans, you guys. Look at how nice and clean and tight those bases are. Clean and tight bases, the perfect amount of adhesive, perfect isolation. You're going to have a beautiful set. Okay, so something that you want to start paying attention to. Look at those lashes. They are slightly angled towards the inner of the lash. And again, you'll see it at the end of the video. I post a picture. I think I actually have a couple videos in here too to show you what it looks like. And like I said, it doesn't look terrible. It just doesn't look like, I don't know. It's just not my favorite look. Again, at their next appointment, you can start correcting them and removing those lashes as they grow out. But this is just, I wanted to post a picture and a video of what it looks like when you do what I probably recommend not to do. And I'm a visual person, and I know that us beautiful creative minds are all visual. So I hope that you appreciate me doing an entire set backwards for you guys. Okay, so again, I'm going to kind of touch on mapping in my head. And for mapping in my head, I think mapping in my head is so fun for a full set. It's a little trickier to do with a fill, because with a fill, you don't really have full reign on what you're doing. You kind of have to follow what you're doing. So for a fill, I really recommend at least writing like the longest number and the shortest number. That way, maybe where like if it's a 15 in the center, just do a 15. And then you can do like an arrow and do at the end of the arrow, say 6, like whatever your shortest. So you're going 15 phasing down to 6. On the opposite of the eye, you'll do like 15 angling down to, I think we did 11 on her. I'm not 100% sure, but not as short. Just so you have like, as a consensus of all clients, they just want it to be nice and consistent. So keep an eye on the fills if you're doing mapping in your head. But that is perfectly fine if you're comfortable with it. I do it sometimes, but I really try and be careful when I'm doing it with fills because it's really easy to get carried away. We listen to, the good old morbid podcast, so sometimes we just get carried away. And so, for example, I said this before, this is an example of a set that we worked from the inner towards the outer. We did as short as 6 millimeter, as long as 15 millimeter in the center, and then we went back down to 11 millimeter on the outer. And again, how I choose my map, I just look at my client's eye when it's open, and I look at what I would want to correct. So if they come in wanting like a cat eye or whatever, we'll go with that. But usually I just go off of my judgment. They trust me, and I look at their eye and look at like what we should correct, Okay, so this is it, you guys. This is the after look, and you see they're slightly angled towards the inner. And again, it doesn't look terrible, but it, for me, is not ideal. It is not my favorite. I like when they angle slightly out, and I know that is the quote-unquote correct way to do it. So anyways, thank you for watching, you guys. You guys have been so awesome, and I know you guys are waiting for that code. Here it is.